Democracy is a system of government where power resides in the hands of the people. It is a form of governance that allows every individual to have a say in how they are governed, ensuring that the collective will of the populace is reflected in the decisions that affect their lives. It is a powerful idea, built on the principles of individual freedom and collective decision-making. The essence of democracy lies in the belief that every person, regardless of their background, has an equal right to participate in the political process. In a democracy, citizens have the right to choose their leaders through free and fair elections. These elections are a cornerstone of democratic governance, providing a mechanism for the peaceful transfer of power and the renewal of political leadership. They have the right to express their opinions without fear of reprisal. Freedom of speech and assembly are fundamental rights that allow citizens to voice their concerns, advocate for change, and hold their leaders accountable. Democracies thrive on active citizen participation, ensuring that governments are accountable to the people they serve. This participation can take many forms, from voting in elections to engaging in public debates and community meetings. The United States stands as a prominent example of a democratic republic. Its democratic institutions have evolved over centuries, adapting to new challenges and changing societal values. Its constitution, crafted centuries ago, guarantees fundamental rights and establishes a system of checks and balances to prevent the concentration of power. This framework has been instrumental in maintaining the stability and integrity of the American democratic system. Germany, another successful democracy, emerged from the ashes of World War II. The country underwent a profound transformation, rebuilding its political and social structures to create a robust democratic system. It rebuilt itself as a federal republic, emphasizing social justice and economic equality. The German model of democracy places a strong emphasis on the protection of human rights and the promotion of social welfare. These examples highlight the adaptability and resilience of democratic systems in different cultural and historical contexts. Whether in the United States or Germany, democracy has shown its capacity to evolve and endure. However, democracies are not without their challenges. The very principles that make democracy strong also make it vulnerable to various threats and pressures. Ensuring equal representation, protecting minority rights, and combating corruption require constant vigilance. These issues are ongoing struggles that demand the attention and commitment of both citizens and leaders. The effectiveness of democratic institutions depends on an informed and engaged citizenry, committed to upholding democratic values. Education and civic engagement are crucial in fostering a culture of democracy. The journey of a democracy is an ongoing process, demanding continuous efforts to safeguard and strengthen its foundations. Each generation must take up the mantle to protect and advance democratic ideals. Despite these challenges, the core principles of democracy, freedom, accountability, and participation continue to inspire people around the world. These principles are the bedrock upon which democratic societies are built. The struggle for democracy is a testament to the enduring human desire for self-determination and a voice in shaping their own destinies. Throughout history, people have fought and sacrificed for the right to govern themselves. As Winston Churchill famously said, "Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others." This quote underscores the inherent imperfections of democracy, while also highlighting its unparalleled ability to reflect the will of the people and adapt to changing circumstances. Communism presents a starkly different vision of governance, one that has captivated the imaginations of millions around the world. It seeks to create a classless society where the means of production are owned collectively, eliminating the divide between the rich and the poor. The ultimate goal of communism is to achieve economic equality and eliminate exploitation, ensuring that everyone has access to the resources they need to live a dignified life. In theory, a communist state would prioritize the needs of the many over the desires of the few, creating a society where wealth and resources are distributed based on need rather than greed. This would lead to a more just and equitable distribution of wealth and resources, where no one is left behind and everyone has the opportunity to thrive. China, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, embarked on a grand communist experiment in the 20th century, aiming to transform the nation into a socialist utopia. The Cultural Revolution, with its aim of purging capitalist elements, left a lasting impact on Chinese society, reshaping its cultural and political landscape. Today, China practices a unique blend of communist ideology and market-driven economics, creating a hybrid system that continues to evolve. Cuba, under Fidel Castro, also embraced communism, seeking to create a society free from the influence of foreign powers and economic inequality. The Cuban Revolution sought to liberate the island nation from foreign influence and establish a socialist state, promising a new era of equality and prosperity for its people. However, the path to achieving the communist ideal has been fraught with difficulties, as the realities of implementing such a system often clash with its theoretical promises. The centralized control inherent in communist systems often leads to authoritarianism and the suppression of individual liberties, creating a paradox where the pursuit of equality results in the loss of freedom. Economic progress under communism has been mixed, with some countries experiencing periods of growth, while others grapple with stagnation and inefficiency, highlighting the challenges of managing a centrally planned economy. The fall of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked a turning point in the history of communism, signaling the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in global politics. It exposed the flaws and limitations of a system that had promised so much but delivered so little for many of its citizens, leading to widespread disillusionment and a re-evaluation of communist principles. While the allure of a classless society remains a powerful motivator for some, the practical realities of implementing communist ideals have proven to be immensely challenging, raising questions about the viability of such a system in the modern world. Scholars and political theorists continue to debate the merits and drawbacks of communism, examining its impact on societies and exploring whether its ideals can be adapted to contemporary contexts. Despite its controversial history, the vision of a society based on equality and collective ownership continues to inspire movements around the world, as people seek new ways to address the inequalities and injustices of the present day. Whether through grassroots activism, policy reforms, or innovative social programs, the quest for a more equitable and just society remains a driving force for many, reflecting the enduring appeal of the communist ideal. Anarchy represents the complete absence of government and any form of centralized authority. It is a concept that has fascinated and terrified people for centuries, often depicted in literature and media as both a utopian dream and a dystopian nightmare. It is a state of lawlessness where individuals are left to fend for themselves. In such a scenario, the strong often prey on the weak, and survival becomes a daily struggle. The absence of a governing body means there are no laws to protect the vulnerable, no institutions to provide essential services, and no social contracts to ensure mutual cooperation. While often romanticized as a utopian ideal of absolute freedom, the reality of anarchy is far more grim. The notion of living without any form of control or restriction may seem appealing to some, but the consequences are dire. Without a framework to maintain order, society quickly unravels, leading to widespread disorder and suffering. Without laws, institutions, or any form of social contract, societies quickly descend into chaos and violence. The absence of a central authority creates a power vacuum, which is often filled by those who are willing to use force to impose their will. This leads to a cycle of violence and retribution, making it nearly impossible to establish peace and stability. Somalia, ravaged by decades of civil war, offers a stark illustration of the perils of anarchy. The collapse of its central government in the early 1990s led to a prolonged period of lawlessness and conflict. Various factions and warlords vied for control, each seeking to expand their territory and influence through violence and intimidation. The collapse of the central government in 1991 plunged the country into a state of lawlessness. With no central authority to enforce laws or provide services, the people of Somalia were left to navigate a dangerous and unpredictable landscape. The power struggles between rival factions resulted in widespread destruction and loss of life. Warlords and militias vied for control, terrorizing civilians and hindering any prospect of rebuilding. The constant threat of violence made it difficult for communities to come together and rebuild their lives. The lack of security and stability meant that even basic necessities like food, water, and healthcare were hard to come by. The absence of a functioning government led to a breakdown of essential services, widespread poverty, and a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions. Schools, hospitals, and other critical infrastructure were destroyed or abandoned, leaving the population without access to education or medical care. The resulting humanitarian crisis has had long-lasting effects on the country's development and the well-being of its people. The Somali experience underscores the fundamental human need for order and security. It highlights the importance of having a governing body that can provide stability and protect the rights of its citizens. Without such a framework, society becomes a battleground where only the strongest survive. While the desire for freedom is universal, it cannot exist in a vacuum. True freedom requires a balance between individual rights and collective responsibilities. It necessitates a system of governance that can mediate conflicts, enforce laws, and ensure that everyone's rights are respected. Without rules and regulations, without institutions to mediate disputes and enforce agreements, societies crumble. The absence of a legal framework leads to an environment where might makes right and justice becomes a rare commodity. This lack of order can quickly escalate into widespread violence and anarchy. The absence of governance creates a void that is quickly filled by those who seek to exploit and dominate others. In such a scenario, the most vulnerable members of society suffer the most. The lack of protection and support leaves them at the mercy of those who wield power through fear and violence. The lessons from Somalia and other failed states serve as a stark reminder of the importance of effective governance. They illustrate the dangers of allowing a society to descend into lawlessness and highlight the critical role that governments play in maintaining order and protecting the rights of their citizens. While governments can sometimes be inefficient, corrupt, or even oppressive, their absence creates a far more dangerous and unpredictable world. The challenges of governance are many, but the alternative, anarchy, is far worse. It is a state where the rule of law is replaced by the rule of the jungle, and where human rights are trampled underfoot. The pursuit of a just and equitable society requires a delicate balance between individual liberty and collective responsibility, a balance that is impossible to achieve in the absence of any form of governance. It is through the establishment of fair and just institutions that societies can thrive, ensuring that freedom and order coexist in harmony.